From the Arkansas Sports Network, it's an in-depth Arkansas Razorbacks podcast. Featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Caldwell. Around here, we call him the Rain Man of Arkansas Razorback Sports, Mr. Duran Miller. And finally, he wears his hair upside down, and he pushes all the buttons, Mr. Bill Harshaw. Everyone get ready, because you're now connected to the Razorwire.
And welcome into another episode of the Razorwire right here from Arkansas Sports Network. Brad Caldwell, Duran Miller, I'm Bill Harshaw, and we got a good show for you today. We're going to talk about the LSU series. We're going to talk about the bad from that series. We're also going to talk about how good are we? That's something we all want to know. And, we have some football and some basketball things to talk about, as well as a look ahead to Georgia. But, guys, we went down to Baton Rouge and we took care of business.
The first time since 2004 and the second time only in, I guess, the 29 years that Arkansas has been in the SEC that they went down to LSU and won a series. It says a lot about this team, and it kind of speaks to how good that they are. I know LSU is not as good, but this thing is LSU, Arkansas. They can say what they want about rivalries down in LSU. Arkansas baseball versus LSU baseball is most definitely a rivalry.
I would say so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. And it's a huge win to go down there on the road. I don't care if they're, 7-11 or 13, whatever it is right now, but it's a tough place to win. Just like when we go anywhere, they opened up the stadium crowd, it seems like. Trying to get us, they're doing whatever they can to beat us. That's what happens when you're number one. You got that big target on your back. So to go down there and win 2 out of 3 and really had a chance to steal that third one, if you sweep them, we've only done that one time in 2004, like we talked about, and that would have been huge, but still getting 2 out of 3 is big time. And the Road Hogs continue to roll.
And that's something that Dave Van Horn is well aware of. He knew that the Hogs had not won a series down there since 2004. He talked about that in his post-game press conference.
We didn't play very well the second game. We were sluggish at the plate, but it really all started on the mound. The very first inning, giving them 3 runs. I think we had 2 wild pitches, hit by pitch, walk, and we're down 3-0 after 1. And, after that, we got a little bit better. Vermillion came in and did a nice job. Gave up a couple runs, but gave us a chance to kind of slow things down a little bit. Monk was outstanding. Cops was great. And, we were one big hit away from tying that game up or winning that game. And think about that 9th inning there when Opitz hit a screamer oppo and third baseman's right there. And sometimes you got to be lucky. And I felt like that, we fought to the end. But the first game came out and hammered the ball all over the field. Got a pretty good pitching performance from Paulette and scored a lot of runs and then kind of cruised down the stretch and probably let a little momentum slip away late in the game because they kept scoring on us and pitchers we brought in didn't do a real good job. But, for the most part, it was a really good weekend, winning 2 out of 3 on the road down here. Just disappointed that we didn't have a chance to see that last inning through. Well, I thought it was a good weekend. It was a quick weekend, having to play 2 again. Last night's game was a great game and 0-0 going into the 7th, and we kind of got after it. And then, today, game 1, kind of jumped out there. And then I thought Robert Moore made an incredible play in center field. Ended up being a double play. Instead of being 5-2 with a couple guys on, it was 5-1, and we're in the dugout. That was a super play for us, and got a lot of big hits. Did a great job. We had 19 hits, and I don't know. I guess overall, just if we hadn't had to play that second game and end up losing by a run, I'd probably be in a little better mood. But you're still getting over the moment. It's only been 30 minutes or so, but it was a good weekend. Good for us to come down here and win the series and move on to the next one. A lot of times you see that when you go out and you score a bunch of runs, you don't score much the next game, whether it's the next game of a doubleheader or the next day. Just crazy the way it works sometimes. But, You got to give Hilliard credit. He came out and he threw his breaking ball for a strike, threw his fastball for a strike, and we hit a couple balls hard, but really he just got us out. He had a nice lead to work with too, and I think he got comfortable out there. And he gave him 5 quality innings, only 1 run, and turned it over to Edwards, and he's the one who really pitched well. We didn't do much against him, and but you got to give credit to LSU's defense. They played great today. They outplayed us the second game. We almost beat them, and like I said, we were 1 big hit away from tying it or taking the lead. And you just got to keep swinging. Guys making plays, you keep hitting it hard. That's all you can do.
So coming back, Dave Van Horn, he really likes what he's seeing from his Hogs. Our pitching is looking good. Wicklander, 66 pitches and 6.2 innings of play. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. And I talked about this last week that I think that Wicklander is your most important player. Just because Arkansas hasn't got quite the starting pitching that you would think they would have by now. I think that he's come in and maybe solidified that number 1 starting spot, which is the one thing that this team is missing. And so if he can come in and do what he did, I think that it just solidifies everything that we've talked about the Razorbacks already.
Yeah, definitely. He's had 2 outstanding outings in a row, and just really on a roll here. And like you said, if he can keep that up, that really makes us a very tough and really, makes it where we don't have very many holes, no chinks in the armor hardly. So he is huge. He is very important to this team. And if we can get some other guys going, some Wiggins, some Connor Nolans, things of that nature, we'll be even tougher. And that's a scary thought to other teams.
Kevin Kopps keeps doing what Kevin Kopps does. And he looked really good in his outing this weekend.
Absolutely. He leads the nation in ERA right now. That says all you need to say. And they're not just getting, an inning out of him. He's become the closer. I think that they probably meant for him to be a setup guy at first, but he's just become the guy that locks the door. He's a guy that can get you possibly even 9 outs in a ball game. And then they're going to him multiple times in a weekend. And that says a lot about what he's doing with the leading the nation in ERA.
And I don't want anybody to get the impression that Kopps is the only closer that we have. I think Dave Van Horn just wants to go with the hot hand.
Right. And right now it's hard to go anywhere besides Kopps. He is really handcuffing the other team. He's doing an awesome job. A lot of people don't realize this, but he actually broke a record the other day with his struck out 11 straight batters going back to that South Carolina series. And that broke Jess Todd's record. He had the school record of 9 in a row against South Carolina. He did that against South Carolina back on May 24, 2007. So, he is rolling. He's got 6 wins, so he's 6-0, and he's got 6 saves this season. So that just shows you that, they're coming in early on them when games are tied up or we may be even behind, and they're letting them close as well. And he is definitely in that running with Rocker and some of the other guys at the top of the SEC to be pitcher of the year, in my opinion.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. When you lead the nation in ERA, even though you're not a top line starter, it says a lot about what you're saying. And I know one thing, Kopps is making a lot of money this year. I can tell you that much. That guy is moving up draft boards like crazy.
Yeah, somebody's going to pick him up. I'd love to keep him as long as we can, but if he does go the draft route, somebody's going to pick this kid up. Absolutely, he's going to make some bucks for sure. And then another guy that that's probably increasing his draft stock, SEC Player of the Week, Christian Franklin.
Franklin came in this year as probably the top guy, and probably still is the top guy on our team, and looking to go in that top 2 rounds most likely. Guy has been very, very good. The crazy thing about it is there have been thoughts about him slumping this year and not playing as well. But I can tell you one thing, that went away this last weekend. 10 RBIs, a home run, a key home run in that first game to kind of break the game open. And he was phenomenal this week against LSU.
Yeah, 6 for 11, 545 batting average, 571 on base percentage. It batted 1,000 on the OPS. The guy is just on a tear right now. he started out really rough this year. That's what that slump kind of talk got started. And but Van Horn's talked about it a few times in some of his pressers. How he just feels like he's a little bit unlucky. He's hit a lot of hard balls, hit him up in the wind. That went right to the warning track or just shy of it, and he kind of was unlucky there a few times. But he really showed what he was capable of. And when we got a guy like Franklin going off, getting 10 ribbies in a series, I mean, man, it just solidifies why we're number one.
Now, you also have to look at the bad from that LSU series, and I think one of the things to talk about would be Connor Noland's first appearance. He's coming off the injury. There's going to be a little bit of a rust. My question is, was it injured? Was he still just a little bit rusty? Was it a little bit of both?
Probably a little bit of both. And I mean, you're talking about coming in an SEC game, first time that you've seen action in 2 months. I mean, I think I've said this before that the SEC it's compared to AA baseball, and so he basically come in a AA situation, and they were trying to get him some innings. Arkansas was rolling at that point, up 16-3, and he kind of led LSU back into the series by allowing what he allowed. I think it ended up leading to the loss on the third game because he allowed the momentum to kind of swing back into the LSU's favor.
I think that's entirely the thing. We took care of game 1, 7-0. And then we come back in game 2. That one was looking like it was going to be an absolute blowout. And you kind of think that, did Arkansas exhaust all of their energy on game 2? And LSU, they start kind of coming back. At one point there was a very large deficit in the score, and they start just notching in runs, bringing in a run here, bringing in a couple runs there. And next thing you know, they have enough runs that normally will win a game. Normally. And, that momentum that they had there toward the end of game 2, I do think that played a role in carrying that momentum over into game 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, look, we still won the overall series if you go by the total runs, 28-15. But yeah, I mean, it definitely kind of got a spark going down there for the Tigers, and they ran with it. And game 3, and Van Horn's talked about this too, is any day you got a doubleheader. If you can win 2 in the SEC, that rarely happens. So I think we were just a little run down, and they got that momentum, and it was just kind of a perfect ingredient for them to hang on and win that. And we still almost come back and won, but just couldn't quite get it done.
Well, one of the things that made that a little difficult, Duran, was the strike zone there at the end. That last strike of the game. Obviously, I saw a screenshot of it. I mean, it's definitely low and away. That strike zone was just all over the place.
Well, the thing that bothers me about it is Arkansas had the winning run at the plate and the tying run at third base when he made that call. So he basically took it right out of the players' hands by allowing them or making that call. I mean, it was nowhere near. And I think he had struck another one out earlier in the inning on a similar call. And one of the things a lot of people said was these guys had to umpire a doubleheader there, 18 innings of ball. I know, I understand, I've done it. But when you're making about $2,000 a game, you can stay out there another pitch. And I think he did a disservice to the Razorbacks. And it just seems like that this is kind of par for the SEC course, that Arkansas kind of gets it stuck to them. And this is one of those times.
Well, that's one of the things that I always say is, never leave it in the hands of the officials. And, Arkansas, I wouldn't say that Arkansas left it in the hands of the officials, but the officials certainly didn't give them any help on that. And you want to be able to take care of things where the official doesn't make that final judgment that boots you out of the game. You want to be able to go into it and say, look, I don't care if that's a strike or a ball, we're still going to win this thing. So, that's the downside to me is you don't leave it in the hands of the officials, because that's when they're going to get a call wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And we've been in that position, but at the same time, sometimes you can't help it. And Arkansas was down 5-1 going into the bottom of the last or the top of the last inning of that game. And, they made their comeback. They had an opportunity. So you get you get 2 bad strikeouts in that one inning. Does Arkansas win the game if they don't strike those guys out? Very possibly. And stuff like that is what affects the SEC and the standings And I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but Mississippi State is right behind Arkansas, even though Arkansas has won every single SEC series this year.
Yeah, Mississippi State is a good ball club. I hate to say that, but they are right now, aside from Arkansas, they're the team to beat in the SEC West.
For sure.
Just waiting on that siren to wind down back
Right.
in the background.
It's 12 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the longest one I've ever heard in history. Yeah, I totally agree with y'all guys on that. And
but it goes into how good are we, and that was one of the things that we were going to talk about. We listened to the game, and I thought it was an absolute wonderful thing that when we're watching Arkansas defeat LSU, watching LSU's broadcast of it. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to them be down on it. But in two other broadcasts, they're saying Arkansas is the best team, in the SEC, and one of them added in by far.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ESPN hates Arkansas. Well, at this point, they can't really hate on them, can they? I mean, look, Arkansas is a small state. Up until this census, the smallest state in the SEC was Arkansas. You're also not an original member of the SEC. You kind of get a little SEC kicking around because of that. And you're not one of those major television markets as well. But with that being said, you've got the lead analyst for SEC saying, or for the ESPN saying, hey, Arkansas is just that good this year. And, that's a feather in our cap for sure. But I do want to point one thing out. As much as we love to hear about how good Arkansas is, there's only been one overall one seed since 1999 win the College World Series, and that was Miami in '99.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that you can shut your face on. I don't want to hear those kind of stats. The thing about that is, I mean, it's tough for the number one seed to make it all the way to the championship, for one, because everybody has that, their aim set out for you. If you're the big dog in Omaha, everybody wants to get a taste of that big dog, and so that's why it's so hard for the number one seed to win it all. But this Arkansas team is a little special. And, with us being one of the best teams in the country, and like ESPN saying, by far, you would hope that will carry over into Omaha.
Yeah, and Dave Van Horn talks about it all the time. This team just enjoys playing. They just like getting out there and getting after it. And when you got the kind of talent that he's assembled, and you've got the bats and the pitching going, the way we do, I mean, it's really special, and it's awesome to be a part of.
It is. And when you look at the team rankings, it kind of makes you stand out on not only are we swinging the bats well, but we're also fielding the ball well. So defensively and offensively, we're making strides. And that's something that Dave Van Horn talked about.
We've really done a nice job fielding this year. In conference play, we're fielding 984, which I think may be the top. I know overall for the year, we're fielding 980. And I know that leads the SEC in all games played. So team batting average, I think we're 280, 282, somewhere in there overall. We lead the SEC in runs scored, I think RBIs, walks, and home runs. And I think that leading the league in walks is big. It says that we're fouling off a lot of pitches. We're not going out of the zone too much, working the count. And when they're making mistakes a little bit, we're hitting the ball over the outfielder's head. So
Dave Van Horn was talking about the team stats there. And, another factor that goes into that is, the rankings and the RPI, who has the stronger schedule. And right now it's Arkansas.
Arkansas sits at the top of so many things, including the top SOS, and probably will end up being the number one strength of schedule before the year's over, having to play Georgia and Florida to end the season, and Tennessee as well at Tennessee. I mean, that's tough as it gets, and you're talking about teams that are considered national championship contenders. Florida was preseason number one. Tennessee has climbed the charts. Tony Vitello over there, former Arkansas Razorback assistant, fantastic coach. He has resurrected that Tennessee program from the ashes
quickly too.
Yeah, you've got a lot of good things going on over there. In fact, not only did Vitello resurrect Tennessee, but he sent Arkansas to a new level. By the way, just by being here. Don't get me wrong, DVH is great, but the caliber of players that have started to come here after Vitello was because of Vitello. And so, with that said, I mean, it's just it's amazing. Honestly, it's just amazing to watch this whole thing unfold. Now the question is this going to end up being an Omaha bust? Is this going to be a national championship or bust situation because they have been so successful?
I think definitely Omaha is something that you have to hit. I think when you start looking at the rankings and the RPI of this team, you look at who we faced. We faced the best. We faced the tough road games full of wonderful fans. And, that's something you have to think about when it comes corn dog smells. That's right.
Cowbells.
Bobby Boucher down there. You got to take care of that. But, I think when it comes to what do you expect at the conclusion of this season, obviously Omaha is a part of that. We expect to be there. And, aside from Brad's nice little statistic about the last number one team to win it all, I think Arkansas kind of expects to win it all this year. And, he did talk about, by the way, DVH did talk about the rankings at DPI. We'll get to that in a second. But Dre, you was going to say something?
I was just going to say, yeah, you're totally right. In my opinion, you know how Razorback fans are. After we've been number one all season long, there are going to be a lot of people flip out if we don't win the entire thing, not just make it to Omaha. And everything points to we are right now the best team in the country. But we also, this stretch we've got coming up, I mean, we had a tough stretch at the beginning, with Texas, TCU, Texas Tech, all down there in the neutral site. And then we had Mississippi State and Ole Miss pretty early on. But, I mean, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. I mean, Florida just took 2 out of 3 from Vandy, tightened that race up. They're tied now. Tennessee's 1 game behind them in the East, and they're all 1 or 2 games behind us for the overall. And I mean, it is going to be a very tough stretch here to finish this up. So, not to be negative, but we've done everything we should so far. But at the same time, I mean, things could get a little crazy here, and you could end up not being the number one team. You could end up not winning the regular season SEC, and still be a phenomenal team. But this schedule is just relentless, and it just keeps coming at you. So yeah, I mean, I think there'll be a lot of fans that if we don't win the championship, you know how some of the people are. Some people understand, it's still an amazing season and all that, but there's going to be some upset people.
Arkansas fans are very hungry for a baseball national championship. I mean, it's, when you were so close in 2018, they want that. And of course, I personally just want to see it for Coach Dave Van Horn because he's that good and he deserves to win one. And they've been on the precipice now several times. It is time to break through, but baseball is such a funny game, man. I mean, it goes hot and cold pretty quick. You can actually go back to the 2019 College World Series team that was so hot through the Super Regional. They faced Florida State. They can't muster but 1 run, and I think they got 3 runs against Texas Tech, and they went 2-Q. So, I mean, as much as we will say, yeah, man, they should be. They're the best team overall. Yes, they are right now the best team. But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of season to be played. I mean, you're talking about this thing doesn't end until almost July. So there's a lot of stuff still to happen between now and then.
That's right. But the thing is Arkansas right now can lose every game from this point forward and still be in the top 8 in the RPI. Conversely, if you look down at Auburn, they can win out and not even have a chance of sniffing it. So, I mean, Arkansas is in a good spot here. And, Dave Van Horn was able to break down the RPIs and how those things are calculated. He had this to say about it.
We're 15-6 in the SEC play, which is, and you hear me saying it all the time, it's really good. talking with other coaches that have been in the league for a while, they feel the same way, that the talent is really up. Teams seem to be a little bit older, and it's hard to win, and it's hard to beat people because of the experience that they have. But we've found a way in many a game. Right now our strength of schedule is listed at number two in the country. And I think with the teams that we have coming up, Tennessee on the road, Florida at home, those two teams are ranked in the top 10. Georgia, was in the top 25 in most of the polls. I think that we could end the regular season with the number one, I guess, rated hardest schedule, so to speak, in the country. Our RPI right now is number one. I think it's pretty solid. And the way that works is and I think I mentioned this last time, that a lot of variables go into it, but it's about, where you're playing. Are you winning? Do you win on the road? Is it a ranked team? I think they break it down into 4 sections. There's section quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4. And we've won a lot of games with teams in quadrant 1 and 2 and ranked teams. And that's how they come up with that formula, so to speak, a little bit anyway.
Of course, those comments came from the Swatters Club meeting Monday. I really want to appreciate them allowing us to visit in on that. But RPI wise, I think Arkansas is set. We're taking care of business. We have 3 major regular season series remaining. And I think it's important that we win those. I mean, we have that Arkansas State game in the middle. I'm not too concerned about that. It's going to be big for the state of Arkansas, obviously. But I think you're right. We have to continue winning these series, especially against the Tennessees, the Georgias, and the Floridas.
Yeah, and if we somehow manage to run that gauntlet and win all 3 series, and that it makes us win every series this season in the SEC, I mean, man, that is just incredible. And then we'll get to the SEC tournament and see how we go from there. But and honestly, yeah, I mean, I want to win Hoover, but it's that thing, where I also don't want to play 5-6 games there, and I want to get us set up good. So I remember us playing Florida when Florida was number 1 all year, and we'd beat them the first round, or they wouldn't pitch hardly anybody, or they might pitch their starter for 3 or 4 innings, and things of that nature, because they were looking ahead. Now sometimes that hurts you. You kind of get out of things, and so it'll be interesting to see how Dave Van Horn does it when we get to that point, and see how all that plays out.
So, the good thing, the reason why we are as good as we are right now is the recruiting. We've done well with that. We're continuing to bring in some big time athletes.
Yes.
Dave Van Horn in that Swatters Club meeting did say that, our incoming freshmen that were signees are looking good. He says, as a matter of fact, I kind of wish they'd kind of not look so good, because they're going to get noticed.
Right.
And he wants to continue to bring those guys on. And, that's one thing that baseball has going for it. Football, not so much. I mean, you start looking at the seasons that football's had, and, Arkansas draftees are the same as Vanderbilt. We've only had 1 draftee, with Vanderbilt only having 1, and the records match that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to Brett Bielema. It goes back to Chad Morris. I mean, you're looking at those 2 guys as culprits for both. I mean, Brett Bielema got it started. Chad Morris ran it into the ground. It was as bad as you could have ever imagined it to be at Arkansas. I mean, you go back to Chad Morris's last game when Western Kentucky beat Arkansas up 35-7 at the half. I mean, it was just a pitiful performance. So I feel like that, it kind of basically just shows where we've been. It also says something about Sam Pittman and the job that he did this year by getting to win 3 games, and then also staying in some of those games as well.
Yeah, and Chad Morris, he did have that one class that was really highly ranked, but a lot of those guys aren't even here anymore. A lot of those guys have transferred out, or just for whatever reason, different things happening. But like you said, Bielema, the thing with Bielema was when he came in, he was doing a lot of things the right way when he had Pittman still on staff, and they were building it from the outside, from the inside out, the lines, and he had a a lot of recruits when he was at Washington. I know at one point he was like third with first round draft picks, and that came from those linemen up there and those running backs and quarterback. He had to transfer from North Carolina State that plays for the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, and those numbers helped him. But then once Pittman left, I mean, we're starting to walk on true freshman at center that next year, and the kid from Fayetteville started this year on. What is it?
Clary.
Yeah, Ty Clary. And he has to start as a walk-on that game. His that was Bielema's last season. So that's where things kind of went sideways, and we kind of lost some of that depth. And you're starting to see that, and Pittman is slowly building that back up. And I can't wait for this season of football to see what he does in year 2 after that Pittman effect, that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Pittman continues to bring in defensive tackles. He's looking to pressure that quarterback. Arkansas picks up another defensive tackle in Trey Williams, 85 tackles, 15 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks from Missouri. So he continues to follow the head coach. So, we have, that's what, 2 now from Missouri that's coming over to join Odom.
Yeah, D tackle and a defensive end, and I think we really needed an end. We need a pass rusher that I think he's kind of replacing that Julius Coates who transferred or put his name in a portal. I don't know if he's actually landed anywhere, but that's an area of concern. And we've got the fifth-year senior back on the other side, number 5, Dorian Gerald, and I like him. I think that he was going to have a really good year that year that he had the artery injury. We beat Colorado State, and then he was out the rest of the season. That was Morris's last year, and then it all fell apart. It wasn't just him, though, obviously. But, those are some big-time pickups with Utsi and Williams.
SEC experience, but I'll tell you one thing that sticks out to me, and you guys can comment on it, is Missouri. You're talking about that rivalry ramping up. Of course, Eli Drinkwitz being from Alma, Arkansas, graduating from Arkansas Tech University, it's a big deal. And I can tell you, I know Eli. I've known him for a long time. We don't speak on regular basis, but I know who he is. I know a lot of people that are around him and know who he is. He is not going to cut any slack to Arkansas because he's from here. In fact, I think he might even throw gas on the fire. I think we've already seen that.
Yeah,
well, I think
he's
if
a
anything,
Malzahn prodigy.
I think if anything, this whole dynamic that we have going on with Missouri right now, the SEC wants Arkansas, Missouri to be a rivalry. It didn't start out that way. Everybody in Arkansas is going, I care more about beating LSU than I do Missouri. But right now, with us, getting some of their transfers and Drinkwitz being from Arkansas, it's creating that interesting dynamic that I think could evolve into more of a rivalry between the two schools.
And do you remember back when Bielema was here, we had the game where we were rolling, doing great, and Brandon Allen gets hurt, and they continue to play him instead of bringing in his brother. He was a freshman in Austin, and we lose that game. Should have never lost it. They had the linebacker there, the redheaded kid that made all those statements. They were horrible that year, and that was the game we lost. Should have never lost it. So I think, you're right. It's that's building a little bit because we've been on the losing end of that for several years. I was at the Cotton Bowl, McFadden's last game, when Reggie Herring was the interim coach after Nutt left, and Petrino was there watching. He was the next coach coming in, and they put it on us 38-7. And Tony the Tiger, he had like a 300-yard rushing game. I mean, it was a brutal day. I was on the shaded side, which had about 15 degrees out there, and it was freezing. And it was just a horrible trip. But I'm ready to get on the winning side of that.
Absolutely. And speaking getting on the winning side, we're going to take a quick break. And on the flip side of that break, we're going to talk about more winning. We're going to talk about softball. We're going to talk about basketball. We're going to look ahead to baseball action with Georgia and beyond. So we're going to take a quick break here on the Razorwire, and we'll be right back in just a moment. back here for more Razorwire. And of course, we left off talking about how good are we in football and winning. And, we got to talk about softball. I mean, Mary Hoff named SEC Player of the Week twice, 71 career wins, and more importantly, softball, SEC champions.
Yeah, big series win against LSU. If they'd have swept them, they would already be outright. Right now, they can do no worse than a share of the SEC championship. Florida is going to play A&M this weekend at Florida, and if Florida happens to have one hiccup there and lose one game, then Arkansas is the outright champs. And a crazy stat that I did not know this till yesterday, but other than the SEC joined softball, started sponsoring it in 1997, and Florida and Bama have won it every single time. So Arkansas is only the third team in SEC softball history to win the SEC regular season. So I mean, that is a huge accomplishment by Courtney Deifel and the Ladybacks.
Awesome job, and that's good stuff, man. You're pulling up some stats that I hadn't heard of.
That's, to me, is just amazing, to think about the fact that Arkansas is the third team in SEC history to win it. I mean, Auburn, all these other schools, Georgia's pretty good at softball. I mean, LSU, they're good. Tennessee's been to the College World Series, and that's a major feather in the cap for Courtney Deifel. And what a job that she's done. 5 years ago, Arkansas was 1-23 in the league, and they come all the way back 5 years later, SEC champions.
That's a turnaround. And of course, Hannah McEwen, she's helping make that happen. She had her 200th career hit over the weekend, only the 9th in program history to do so. So, I mean, they're getting some studs on softball. That's making things happen.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit last week when we touched on softball, that Arkansas and other surrounding states, and especially Arkansas, there's been a lot of talent here, and it's just not been poached the right way. And we're Deifel, she's recruiting nationally, and but we're also getting those in-state kids here and there as well. And I really expect this to keep going. I think Arkansas softball has finally arrived, and we're going to be here for a while. We're going to be a tough team moving forward.
I think so. I mean, this could cement our legacy, if you will, in the SEC softball rank.
Yeah. I mean, you're one of three teams in the whole conference that's won it. So, I mean, honestly, you would say that Arkansas is a contender. I don't know if they're a contender this year to win it all, but I mean, they look like they're going to host a regional and a super regional probably. I mean, they're taking the next step. It reminds me a lot of when Dave Van Horn was here early in the movement with baseball, where you would see them. And then I know he went to the College World Series very early in his tenure here. But with that being said, there was steps in the process to get to where we are right now.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just, it's really coming pretty quick though, quicker than you would think. And but like you said, definitely steps. And the coaching staff that was here right before Deifel had done a few decent things, and then it was starting to go downhill again. And Deifel comes in and has that first really tough year, but then tightens the ship. And finding Mary Half and Autumn Storms, they have really helped us out over the years. And we got the Braxton Burnside and Hannah McEwen, and just were really tough pitching and hitting this season. So great things from Ladyback softball, and I'm excited to see how they do. The SEC tournament starts next week in Tuscaloosa.
Braxton Burnside from Northeast Arkansas comes in to
transfer from Missouri.
Comes in, yeah, that's right. Comes in and leads the SEC and the nation in home runs. Was the overall Arkansas State home run hitter, holds the record for that in softball. I think she had 44 home runs in her career in softball, and just obviously has built on it from there.
So moving on, basketball, I should say, we've had a little bit of movement, staff movement going on. We're losing a couple of guys, and as well as another coach.
Yeah, David Patrick is a guy that we have lost. To OU, Porter Moser has some Arkansas ties there. And, the question is with Muss as some of these guys come in, are they prepared to be basketball guys? Because Muss is a basketball guy. He loves basketball and maybe loves it so much that you got to be some sort of special to coach here. And I'm pretty sure that David Patrick and Muss were buddies at one point or another. And, he comes here 1 year and he leaves after a year.
Well, we're bringing in Gus Arginal. So, with Arginal, they coach together at Nevada. So they should be on the same page when it comes to the style of offense and defense that Muss wants to run.
Yeah, definitely. He helped him out a lot at Nevada, and then he moved on. He was associate head coach there. And so I think that's a really good fit, and he knows what he's getting into with Muss. And I like what you were saying, Brad, is he's definitely a basketball guy. He brings that professional NBA type approach, and I don't know. I know y'all probably have noticed this, but a lot of super successful coaches. Look at Bill Belichick. Look at Nick Saban. They're borderline kind of, goofy a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They are just, you have to be to win at that level. You're just on another level of intensity. And Muss definitely is that. Look at him after we lose a game. Remember earlier this year when Justice Smith got injured when we went on that tough stretch. And, I don't know how that would look if it was continuing on and he didn't right that ship, because, interviewers even, they're starting to comment on it. It's not fun to interview Muss after a loss. He's in there just hands down like this, just scratching his head. He don't want to talk because he hates losing so bad. But I personally, I love that. I'd rather have that than a guy that acts like it doesn't bother him, that says the same stuff over and over and over. Muss is going to figure it out, and that's what he did this year.
Sounds like you're describing Chad Morris, Duran, when you talk about
hey, left lane and hammer down, baby.
But no, I think you're right. I think, Muss's reaction to winning and losing, it's got to rub off on his players. The players don't want to lose, but, losing these guys, maybe they're not fit for our offense. Maybe they don't play the style of defense that Muss wants them to play, or maybe they come off thinking, this guy's crazy. His drills are just insane. He wants me in top shape health, and I can't keep up with that. Well, listen, I'm not saying that these guys that left have that work ethic. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that it opens up, I think Arkansas has 2 or 3 scholarship opportunities now because these guys are leaving. So 3 scholarships, and you start looking at juniors this year in high school, and obviously you have Morrilton, with Joseph Pinion. Joseph Pinion is one that's already committed to Arkansas, and then you got other guys in the state that could easily fill a role on the Razorback staff, and we've seen a lot of them in person. What was the Magnolia?
Darian Ford.
Yeah. So Darian Ford would be a good asset to the Razorbacks. So these types of transfers are going to happen. You can't avoid them. Especially with the new transfer rule that's in place. But you got to look at it on the bright side. It's opening up room for guys that we can bring in, and maybe we can pronounce their names, and maybe they want to play the Muss style of basketball.
I just call him Bebe, but Bebe transfers out. It was pretty clear that he wasn't going to see the court here more than likely. And, I wish the best for guys like that, because those guys behind the scene that were the practice guys last year, and even Ethan Henderson, until he went to an SEC rival, wink, wink. But no, those guys that either don't get on the court at all or get very little time, they help your team so much. They're unsung, but they help sharpen that iron every week. And so, losing Bebe and Ako Milwane, the JUCO that was coming in, who basically never got here, because he's such a quick turnaround. We don't know what the issue was there, but I'm also personally, I'm looking for a guy, I'd like, if we're going to get a big man, I'm kind of looking for that guy like a Justin Smith or someone a little bit bulkier, another Jalen Williams top, because, we've already got Vanover. I don't really want to have two Vanovers out there. You know what I'm saying? So I think Ako was in that mode a little bit. He's about 6'10", 205, 210, slender build, and I'd really like to see us get a little bit more beefier inside.
And I think
I
that's where it hurts us the most is the size trend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think that though when you look at the recruiting and how Muss is going about it, positionless basketball. Think about
Right.
that. He's trying to get that 6'6" kid that can guard any position, and that's what we're looking at. That's what we're trying to do. I don't see them looking at guys that are bigger right now. They don't seem to be going
Right.
after those guys. You're seeing guards, a lot of them, 6'4" guys even that are going at it pretty hard, trying to get those guys. Um, they've got some guys on the radar, and I can tell you this much: one thing about Muss, even though we're bringing all of these guys in, he's not going to bring somebody in lesser just so that those guys feel good about their playing time. He's going after guys that are going to be able to help them in some way, and he's going to let it kind of play out as it will. If some of these other guys are not good enough to play, they'll be in the transfer portal next year.
Right. I 100% agree. And like you said, positionless guys. We've got Tony, Umudi, Kamari Johnson, whatever. He's kind of a power forward, even though he's 6'7". I do feel like he could play the 3 at times, and he definitely could play the 5 at times. But I really like the small ball approach. It's something that Muss was around a lot in some of the organizations he was at in the ABA, and so I completely agree with you, Brad, that he's going to get that guy in there that are going to play hard and that are positionless and can really just be very dynamic, and versatile.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, back to baseball. That's the next thing that we're gonna be able to see. Basketball. These things take a while to pan out, but with baseball, we have a big series with Georgia. It's a home series. Baum Stadium has increased its capacity. I want to say by 1,000 up to 7,500 capacity, and Dave Van Horn wants the facilities rocking. He wants to have Baum-Walker Stadium at its loudest. He says it's starting to feel like that's happening. He says it's starting to feel more like normal, like COVID is a thing of the past. And he did look ahead during that Squatters Club meeting to Georgia. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Here's what Coach Dave Van Horn had to say about Georgia and the upcoming schedule.
We have 10 games left. We have Georgia coming in, and Georgia, they've been rolling pretty good. They did lose the series this weekend. They lost the rubber match. I think it was on Saturday, and I think they're right at 500 in league play. They've been a top 25 team really most of the year, and they have top 25 talent. They have big time arms. They have a good bullpen. They hit home runs. They have a lot of talent. So we know what we're in for. I mean, in the SEC, you got to kind of almost throw records out, a couple of breaks here or there. They have the same record we do. So we're looking for hopefully the really good crowd and really loud crowds. Hopefully the next, two series that we have here. After the Georgia series, we've got Arkansas State coming in on a Tuesday, and it'll be good to play a Tuesday game, just to kind of get that rhythm going a little bit of 4 games a week, since we haven't done it for a couple of weeks, and haven't ever played Arkansas State. First time for me as a coach, and as far as I know, maybe the first time, in baseball here in the last 50 years anyway. So looking forward to that. And then we head to Tennessee the next weekend. Tennessee's having a great season, pretty much same record that we have. They hit a lot of home runs. They've hit a lot. They've hit like 15 or 16 home runs the last 2 weekends in conference play and really jumped it up. They have outstanding starting pitching. They have 2 really good relievers and probably a couple more that we don't know about out of the pen, but a couple are getting all the pub. They're tied for first in the East. They're only a game behind us and overall, and got a couple former coaches there. So it'll be a great series. And then obviously we come back and we finish up on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series with Florida. Florida jumped back in the top 10. They were a preseason number 1 pick in every poll. They have incredible talent. Kind of started slow, readjusted their starting pitching. And I think it's working for them. There's some of their starters are now in the bullpen, and maybe even a couple of them are closing games for them. They have a dangerous lineup, and they just knocked off Vandy 2 out of 3 this weekend to get within a game or so of first place over there, a game or 2. So one of the best teams in the country, and definitely a contender to win a national championship like Tennessee is, and like Georgia is, and like 3 or 4 of the other teams we played down the stretch here. After that, as far as I know, I think we've already qualified for the SEC tournament, and then we'll head over there after the Florida series.
So again, thanks Dave Van Horn for those comments. But big series with Georgia, guys. What do you guys think about the now upcoming gauntlet that the Hogs have to face?
It is a gauntlet, just like you said. I mean, when you're talking about Georgia being the worst team that you're going to play from here on out, and you look at, and I mentioned this earlier about Mississippi State, look and compare the schedules that the two teams play. Arkansas has Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. Mississippi State has Alabama, and my mind just went completely blank. Missouri is another one that they have, and their schedule sets up way less than what Arkansas's does, and so Arkansas again could end up being the team that wins every SEC series and not win the SEC or SEC West.
Yeah, I mean it's very possible, and this Georgia series, they've been in and out of the top 25 all year. They're right there on the cusp in some of the polls, and they're one of the teams. Vanderbilt's only lost 2 series this season, and it was to Georgia and it was to Florida last weekend. So Georgia is very capable of being a very formidable opponent. So we don't have any favors on the end of the schedule, and we've got to stay on top of our A game for this last stretch.
And by the way, Mississippi State has South Carolina as well. So that's the toughest series that they have left. And that, again, advantage Mississippi State when it comes to remaining schedule. And you got to think about this. Mississippi State has swept everybody. They've only got maybe actually lost one other game besides Arkansas and Vanderbilt. They lost 3 to Arkansas, 2 to Vanderbilt, lost one other game since. Arkansas has a 1-game lead on them.
It's crazy how that works, isn't it?
It is. It's nuts. But it tells you how tough the SEC is. And I was looking at a projection for the College World Series, and they had 5 SEC teams in the College World Series this time, 3 Big 12 teams, and that was their projection. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I mean, I do not see the NCAA allowing it. They'll pair up SEC teams in regionals and super regionals, so they'll knock each other out.
Yep, that's exactly what will happen because they want to spread that out. They want to give everybody an equal shot to get it. And let's face it, the SEC is very, very top heavy. When you look at the top 10, there's a lot of teams from the SEC that's in it, and Georgia, I don't think they're in the top 10. They're in the top 25, but Georgia, they have good pitching. They have good batters. They're kind of middle of the pack. But like Dave Van Horn said, it looks like, just a simple ball bounce one way or ball bounce that way, and they may be in the same boat that we're in. So I think it's going to come down to pitching this series with Georgia.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, and I just hope we can continue to do what we've been doing, going out there and answering the call.
One of the things that we talked about last week is we have our starting pitchers, but when we go into the LSU, we didn't know who that third guy was going to be. Who's going to be our starter on game 3? It was unspecified, and it's still that way. But Dave Van Horn's been hinting in some of his interviews that Jackson Wiggins may get a nod.
Yeah, and he said that he's starting to. They want to build him up a little bit. But definitely was hinting about that could be coming down the pike here, and I don't know if it'll be this weekend or not. It could be, but we'll see. A couple other things that we didn't talk about a whole lot earlier, but the lineup, guys like Caden Wallace and Robert Moore. Robert Moore, I mean, he had the huge 2 home runs against South Carolina. And then last week he still hit 417, and he had a triple, a home run, and it ended up with 5 RBIs. He's starting to take some more walks here and there. So I think, like Van Horn alluded to, that's more of a why he's having such better at bats. And Caden Wallace, man, that dude's a freshman hitting right at 300, 9 home runs. I mean, that's special right there. That's some Heston Kjerstad, Casey Martin top freshman numbers. And we can keep him, get him another year bigger, it's really gonna be awesome moving forward.
It is, but pitching I think is a big key. Obviously, the bats have to move.
Yes.
But Dave Van Horn, he was mentioning Jackson Wiggins. He talked about the bullpen in that Swatters Club meeting. Let's go ahead and listen in to what he had to say there.
As far as the bullpen, I mean, it's been really good with 3 or 4 guys, and we'd like it to be a little bit deeper. But with Kevin Kopps, it's been tremendous. Obviously, everybody's been following what Kevin's done. I mean, he's got 6 saves. Kevin has 6 wins. Means he's come in games that are either tied or we're behind and we catch up and end up winning. His ERA is under 1. He's got like 75 strikeouts and, one of the top relief pitchers in the country. So happy for Kevin. He works extremely hard. He's been through a lot. And, without him, we wouldn't be where we are now. I think Caden Monk has done a tremendous job, especially when we only have to use him once on the weekend. He's been really good. He was really good the first time we brought him in against South Carolina. He was really good this past weekend against LSU. And, hopefully he'll keep climbing and maybe be able to give us a few more innings. Ryan Costu has done a good job, especially for, say, 4 outs, getting an out and maybe the 6th and going the 7th. We tried to push him another inning and it hasn't gone real good, but 2 innings out there, 4, 5, 6 outs max. He's been really good, and hopefully that will continue, and he can continue to improve where he can give us a little bit more. So, and then the other one is Jackson Wiggins. We haven't used him much, haven't really used him at all the last couple of weekends. It hasn't worked out. We've just finished with Kevin a couple of times and kind of going with the hot hand. So Jackson's got a really good arm. He had some good saves for us, and we're working on trying to get him out there a little bit more. I think you might see that here in the future, maybe as early as this weekend.
So again, that's what we're talking about when he says Jackson Wiggins may get his nod, and I think it's time. We looked at the performances from our pitching staff last week. I think Lockhart was a bit of a disappointment, and he brought in. Trying to remember
Vermillion?
his name. No, not Vermillion. I was talking about Connor Nolan is where I was going with that.
Right.
Connor Nolan, he didn't do too well. So I mean, he's kind of starting to scratch his back a little bit and say, okay, who's going to be the one that's going to be my third guy? And it sounds by all intents that Jackson Wiggins may get that nod. And I'm kind of excited about that.
I think that Caleb Bolden has a chance too, because he had a pretty good appearance in South Carolina, and so you could see Bolden possibly get a chance. And Caden Monk's also had some moments too.
Mm-hmm.
Them and Wiggins, and I'm excited to see what Wiggins would bring to that starting spot if he does get the call.
He's probably your overall most talented pitcher. I mean, he's definitely the guy that's got your best fastball. And, he's got that look of a star. He's got the ability to possibly be that. He's going to have to develop into it. But really, when you look at him, he looks like a guy that could be your number 1 guy at some point. And I think that may be what they're trying to do at this point. Get him to a number 3 this year, and then they can start making him, that frontline guy at some point, maybe even next year.
Yeah, he's got that Ebby Nuke Lelouch look to him.
Well, I mean, when you look at Georgia, I mean, they're hitting 277 as a team, and Connor Tate 351 with 10 home runs. That's why, I mean, you look at this team, and yeah, they're middle in the pack in the East, but they have potential to be a very good ball club, and that's why I think pitching is where it's going to have to be this weekend.
Oh yeah, I mean every weekend, every weekend in the SEC, right? You've got to be able to throw, got to be able to pitch it a little bit, or you're going to get embarrassed. I mean, Connor Nolan found out a little bit about that. We don't have to try not to be too hard on him, but he was rusty coming in, and if you're not ready, you're going to get destroyed.
Yeah, he just needs to keep his head up and keep working, and we're going to come back to him at some point, and it's going to be at a big time moment. We're going to need him. He's got to be there.
That's it. So that's a big series coming up with Georgia. And again, as we said, we have more games coming up, big time games after that. I think it's interesting in the Middle East, the win in Arkansas State. That's going to be a big time for the state of Arkansas. I don't think it's going to have any impact on the SEC season whatsoever, or anything for that matter. But I think in the state of Arkansas, has ASU and Arkansas played in recent memory?
No. That has just opened up over the last couple years. They started playing in different sports. You look to see if they may end up playing on the hardwood next year, and then you've got the schedule on the football field in 2025. I don't know when the last time Arkansas actually played Arkansas State in anything major. In a long time, I know basketball wise, it was the NIT back in 1987 when Arkansas was down 20 at the half. And the rumor was that if Arkansas had lost that one to Arkansas State, that Frank Broyles would have fired Nolan Richardson right there.
Yeah, I mean, Broyles is not a fan of playing in-state teams, and I understand it where it comes from, and does it help Arkansas much? Not, I mean, the game itself maybe doesn't, except for it really helps us in schedule some of those in-state opponents. But other than that, I mean, if you lose, it does help the in-state schools big time, gain momentum in recruiting. But I mean, it would have to be something that would have to happen consistently over a period of time to really affect us. So overall, I think it's a win for the state and for people that can, go to a Red Wolves game and see them play Arkansas that already got season tickets there because their kids going there or whatever the reason. So, we'll have to really push our forward-facing hog when we play the Red Wolves so people can get real confused that night.
So that's about it. Remember, go ahead and join on Facebook, Arkansas Sports Network. Give us a like on Facebook as well as on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at AR Sportsnet. But that's where we're at on this episode of the Razor Wire. Before we wrap it up, guys, any last comments?
No, just looking forward to this weekend, kind of getting things rolling again. When there's no baseball in midweek, it's kind of slow. Of course, the basketball news kind of covered for that. But at the end of the day, it's good to get a chance to go and get out on the field again.
That's a great time to be a hog, right?
Yeah, and exactly. That best time it could be. And I don't want y'all guys to be too harsh on Connor Nolan, and other people because, he's just a kid. And whoever wrote this trash is trash. You know what I'm saying? I'm a man. I'm 40.
All right, Gundy.
That's all I got to say about this.
Well, I mean, no, I don't think it's Connor Nolan. I mean, to clarify that, I think, he was looking good in practice. He was pitching well. Dave Van Horn said he was doing so without any injury or pain. But the difference is pitching in practice and pitching, 30, 40 pitches in a game at high speed. That's going to wear on you a little bit differently. And so I think it's a combination of things. I think, one, that injury is still probably nagging him a little bit, but he hadn't played in a while. He's a little bit rusty. I think it's a mixture of both. And he's just only going to get better.
Yeah. And the thing about Nolan is he is a fastball slider guy. And, he doesn't, I think he's increased his velocity over the years, maybe not coming off his injury, but he is a, 90, 91, 92 kind of guy. And then that slider. And if things aren't working just right, they're going to touch him up a little bit. So I think he'll figure that out and right the ship. And we'll see good things from Connor Nolan moving down the line here.
That's it. We'll probably may get a chance to see him this weekend. We'll probably get a chance to see him in ASU and at the least. But it's going to be a big series at home at Baum-Walker Stadium against the Bulldogs from Georgia. It's going to be a big one. And then again, we've talked about what's coming up for Hogs. And coming up for us, we'll be back next week, same time, same place, here on the Razor Wire. And thank you everybody, for being connected to
the Razor Wire.